I'm about to share 3 stories, 3 real experiences that I still can't fully explain. No exaggeration, no fake scares, just moments where something felt completely wrong. Things I witnessed, things I heard, things that still don't make sense to me. Some stories are about fear, some are about being watched, and some are about something that should not exist. If you've ever questioned what's real and what isn't, you might want to stay until the end. And if you enjoy stories like this, make sure to subscribe, because you won't want to miss what comes next.
My family and I have always been extreme skeptics. None of us really believe in ghosts or anything paranormal, which is exactly why I still can't explain what happened that day. I remember going downstairs and seeing my brother in the kitchen. I grabbed a bottle of water and out of nowhere asked him, "Do you believe in ghosts?" He shook his head, but then he told me a story, something strange that had happened to him, something he admitted felt paranormal. That made me curious, so I asked him, "Did you ever try to scare me when I came home from school?" I had planned to follow that question with my own story once he answered. When he said no at first, I actually felt a weird sense of relief, like maybe everything I experienced had a normal explanation. But then he added, "Well, one time I shot a Nerf dart at you while you were on the computer." I froze. I did remember that moment, but what I experienced that day was far worse than just a Nerf dart. What happened to me didn't feel like a prank. It happened back when I was in 7th grade. I had just started the new school year. One afternoon, I came home like usual and went straight to my room. I sat on my bed, put in my earbuds, and started watching YouTube videos. A little while later, my mom called me. She told me my brother would be leaving soon to go to a friend's house. Both of my parents worked late, so that meant I'd be home alone. I've always been a quiet person when I'm alone in the house, not because I liked the silence, but because I was scared of it. I had this constant fear that someone might already be inside the house, and somehow I convinced myself that if I stayed quiet, they wouldn't find me. Looking back now, I wish I hadn't thought that way, because what happened next made me question everything. I paused my video and took out my earbuds. The house suddenly felt too quiet. I got up and walked toward the bathroom. Our house had a strange layout. If you stood inside the bathroom facing the door and stepped out, turning left would lead you down a short hallway to my brother's room. If you turned right, you'd reach the staircase. It went down halfway to a small landing, then continued down to the main entrance. We also had a security system. If any door or window opened, a voice from the alarm box would immediately announce which one had been triggered. I stepped into the bathroom and was about to flush the toilet when I heard it. A loud thud came from my brother's room. At first, I assumed it was him getting ready to leave. Maybe he dropped something. Trying not to overthink it, I flushed the toilet and walked over to the sink to wash my hands. Then, everything went silent. Too silent. Kind of silence that makes your ears ring. Turned off the faucet and just stood there staring at the bathroom door. Something felt wrong. A heavy, sinking feeling settled in my stomach. It wasn't just fear, it was instinct, like my body knew something my mind didn't. I slowly reached for the door and locked it. I told myself I was just being paranoid, but then I heard it. Voices, low, quiet, muttering, coming from my brother's room. My heart started racing. That wasn't my brother, and it definitely wasn't my dad. The voice was deep, too deep, and the way it spoke sent chills down my spine. I could make out certain sounds like S and T, but I couldn't understand a single word. Then came something worse. Footsteps, slow, heavy, deliberate. They started inside my brother's room and then moved into the hallway toward me. Each step
felt louder than the last. Closer, closer, until they stopped, right outside the bathroom door. I stumbled backward, pressing myself against the wall near the small window. My entire body was shaken. I covered my mouth with my hand, trying not to make a sound. I couldn't fight whoever or whatever was out there. I was just a kid, so I stayed completely still, barely even breathing. Seconds felt like minutes. Then the footsteps started again, but this time they moved away. I listened carefully as they headed toward the staircase, and then a loud crash from the middle landing, followed by another crash at the bottom. The muttering stopped. Everything went quiet again. Then I heard it, the front door, opening, closing, and right after that, the alarm system announced that the door had been used. Someone had just left the house, or at least something had.
I didn't move right away. I just stood there, frozen, staring at the bathroom door. My hand slowly reached for the doorknob, but I couldn't bring myself to open it. What if it was still inside? What if it was waiting? I kept one hand over my mouth, trying to stay as quiet as possible. Then I remembered something. The laundry chute. Right outside the bathroom, near the floor, there was a small door that led down to the laundry room. If someone went from the main floor to the basement, it would take at least 30 seconds to get there. At least. I tried to calm myself down by thinking about that. Then, about 10 seconds after I heard the front door open and close, a violent banging sound exploded right next to me. I jumped. The noise was coming from the laundry chute door. Something was hitting it from the inside, hard, over and over again. It sounded like someone was jabbing at it with a long object, like a broom handle, trying to force it open from below. The small door rattled violently with every hit. I just stood there in shock, staring at it, praying it wouldn't break. My heart felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. Then, suddenly, it stopped. No footsteps, no voice, nothing. Just silence. I stayed in that bathroom for what felt like forever. Eventually, I gathered enough courage to unlock the door and slowly step out. Every movement felt dangerous, like something might jump out at me at any second. I rushed to my room and grabbed my phone. I called my parents. No answer. I didn't know what else to do, so I locked myself in my room. Well, as much as I could. My door didn't have a lock, so I just sat there holding the handle tightly, making sure no one could open it from the outside. I stayed like that until my parents finally came home. When I told them what happened, they didn't believe me. They said I must have imagined it. Later, when my brother got home, I told him everything too. At first, he doubted me, but as I finished the story, I saw his expression change. His face went pale, and his mouth slowly dropped open. Then he said something that made everything worse. He told me that sometimes he used to hear noises coming from the attic, the same attic entrance that was in his bedroom. To this day, neither of us knows what was in that house. And honestly, I try not to think about it too much, because some things are better left unexplained.
My name is Elissa. I was 16 years old at the time, living with my mom in a rundown apartment in the Bronx, New York. Living in the Bronx was an experience, not a good one. There were always sketchy people around, and it never really felt safe, especially at night. Our apartment building wasn't much better. It was old, cramped, and filled with neighbors who mostly kept to themselves. But one neighbor stood out, in the worst way possible. Our apartment was the second to last one at the end of a long hallway on the 7th floor. The very last apartment belonged to an older man who always seemed to be there. Every single time I came home, he was sitting outside his door, usually on the windowsill, just sitting there, watching. He looked like he was in his 60s. He had very little hair left, and what remained was gray. His face was always expressionless, completely blank. But his eyes were always locked on me. Even when I was with my mom, he would stare at me in that same unsettling way. My mom noticed it too. She told me clearly, stay away from that man. We didn't even know his name, and honestly, I didn't want to. Then one day, things got even creepier. Every time I passed him in the hallway, he started greeting me. Hi. Simple. But then he started doing something that made my stomach drop. He began calling me by my name. I never told him his name. I never spoke to him long enough for him to know it. So how did he know? I didn't ask. I didn't want to know. I just tried to ignore him and get inside my apartment as quickly as possible every time I saw him. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. And one night, everything changed.
One night, my mom was working the night shift. That meant I'd be home alone all night. I got home around 9 p.m., already feeling uneasy. As usual, the neighbor was sitting on the windsill outside his apartment, watching. As I unlocked my door, I could feel his eyes on me. But this time, instead of just saying hi, he spoke again. "Is your mom working tonight?" I froze for a second. Looking back now, I hate myself for what I did next. I nodded. I actually told him, without saying a word, that I was alone. He didn't respond right away. He just slowly nodded his head, like he was confirming something. That was it. I quickly went inside and shut the door behind me, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling crawling under my skin. I tried to act normal. I washed up, had a snack, and even did some laundry, anything to distract myself. Eventually, I decided to take a shower. For a little while, everything felt fine, until I heard it. A strange noise, low, almost like a faint grinding or scraping sound. At first, I couldn't tell where it was coming from. I turned off the water and stood there listening. There it was again. This time, it sounded closer, like it was coming from inside the apartment. My heart started pounding. I quickly got out of the shower, threw on some clothes, and stepped into the hallway. The noise seemed to be coming from my bedroom. Slowly, carefully, I walked toward it. Every step felt heavier than the last. When I reached my room, I hesitated, then pushed the door open. Nothing. No one was there. I checked everywhere. Under the bed, inside the closet, behind the door. Empty. I let out a shaky breath, trying to calm myself down. That's when I noticed something. A tiny hole in the wall. It was small, almost unnoticeable, but it definitely hadn't been there before. I walked closer and ran my fingers over it. Rough edges. Fresh. My stomach dropped. Slowly, I got down on my knees and looked through it. The second I did, I screamed and fell backward. There was an eye on the other side of the wall, staring directly at me. I scrambled backward across the floor, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might explode. There was no doubt about it. Someone had been watching me. That tiny hole in the wall, it led directly into the neighbor's apartment. My mind started racing. Then it hit me. The noise I heard while I was in the shower, it wasn't random. He had been making another hole. I ran back into the bathroom, my hands shaking, and started feeling along the wall. And then I found it. Another small hole. Fresh. Identical. Placed perfectly to see into the shower. I felt sick. He had planned this. He had been watching me for who knows how long. Panicking, I grabbed my phone and called my mom. As soon as she picked up, I started explaining everything, my voice breaking with fear. Before I could even finish, there was a loud knock at the front door. My entire body froze.
Then his voice came through the door. "Open the door, right now." I couldn't breathe. "I didn't drill those holes," he said loudly, almost angrily. That made it worse, way worse. I backed away from the door, gripping my phone tightly. My mom, still on the line, immediately started panicking. She told me to call the police right away as she rushed home. I dialed 911 with trembling hands. Those next few minutes felt like hours. The man kept knocking, demanding, getting louder. I didn't respond. I just stood there, as far from the door as possible, praying it would all end. And then finally, the police arrived. Within minutes, the knocking stopped. Voices filled the hallway. Doors opened. Footsteps moved quickly. I didn't open my door until I heard an officer call out and identify themselves. When I finally did, I felt like I could breathe again. My mom got home about half an hour later. She was furious. She pressed charges immediately: stalking, invasion of privacy, and criminal mischief. The building management evicted the man not long after, and all the holes were sealed at his expense. But even after everything was fixed, I never felt the same in that apartment again. Because the scariest part wasn't just what he did. It was knowing that he had been watching me the whole time.
I'll never forget the time my friend Hal and I went camping. Hal is an Eagle Scout and a huge nature lover. He goes on camping trips all the time, always talking about how peaceful and exciting it is. One day, he invited me to come along. At the time, his girlfriend Maya was also joining us. It was kind of a last-minute plan, but I agreed. We all carpooled together and drove for about 3 hours before reaching our destination, or at least what Hal called our destination, because it wasn't a campsite, not even close. Hal didn't believe in using official campsites. He said it ruined the experience being around other people. So instead, he took us down some random dirt trail off a deserted road, someplace he seemed to already know about. He drove slowly down the narrow path, surrounded by thick woods on both sides. After a few minutes, he suddenly stopped the truck. "This is it," he said. I looked around, confused. There was nothing there. No signs, no paths, no people, just trees. Endless trees. We got out anyway. Hal opened the trunk and started unloading supplies. Tents, sleeping bags, food, a first aid kit, even toilet paper. He mentioned that he usually packed much lighter, but he wanted this trip to be easier for Maya and me. I wasn't sure what he meant by that, but I was about to find out. Once we found a somewhat clear spot, Hal started assigning tasks. I was in charge of setting up the tents, which I knew how to do. Maya stayed with me, helping a little while unpacking some of the gear. Meanwhile, Hal disappeared into the woods to gather firewood. He would come back every so often, dropping off small bundles of dry wood before heading out again. Time passed quickly. Before I knew it, the sun had started to set. Darkness crept in faster than I expected. Thankfully, by then, Hal had gathered enough wood to build a decent fire. We sat around it together, the flames crackling softly as we started talking, laughing, and drinking. Most of the stories Hal and I shared were old memories, things before Maya was around. After a while, she seemed bored or tired. Eventually, she said goodnight and went into her tent. Hal and I stayed up a bit longer, talking more quietly now out of respect for her. I finished my last beer and leaned back, staring into the fire. That's when Hal suddenly said, "Shh." I froze. "Listen." At first, I didn't hear anything. Then, footsteps, somewhere in the darkness, beyond where the firelight reached.
At first, the footsteps were faint, slow, distant, almost easy to ignore. I looked at Hal, trying to read his expression. "It's probably a deer," he whispered. I wanted to believe him, but something about the sound didn't feel right. "What if it's a bear?" I asked quietly. Hal didn't answer this time. That's when I knew. He wasn't sure either. We both sat there in silence, listening. The footsteps didn't go away. They kept moving, circling us, slowly, and with each passing minute, they got closer. Then we heard something else, a strange sound, a clicking, mixed with a low, guttural growl. I felt my stomach drop. "That's not a deer," I whispered. Hal didn't respond. He just slowly stood up and motioned for me to move. "Get in the tent," he said under his breath. I didn't argue. I quickly crawled into my tent and zipped it shut. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip the zipper. Outside, the fire was still burning, casting a flickering orange glow through the thin fabric of the tent. Then, I saw it. A shadow. It moved across the side of my tent, and my entire body went cold. It wasn't the shape of any animal I knew. It was tall, too tall, standing upright, walking on two legs. Each step was slow, heavy, unnatural. I covered my mouth to stop myself from screaming. The thing moved past my tent, heading toward Hal and Maya's. Everything felt frozen in time. Then, suddenly, Maya screamed. Not just a normal scream, a scream of pure terror, like she thought she was about to die. At the same time, I heard Hal shouting, "Run!" over and over again. That snapped me out of it. I burst out of my tent and saw both of them running into the darkness. I didn't even think. I just ran after them. No flashlight, no direction, just pure panic. Behind us, footsteps, heavy, fast, chasing us and getting closer.
We ran blindly through the darkness. Branches scratched against my arms, the ground uneven beneath my feet, but I didn't dare slow down. Behind us, those footsteps, heavy, fast, relentless. Whatever it was still chasing us. I could hear its breathing now, deep, ragged, inhuman. I was the furthest behind, and I knew if anyone was going to get caught, it would be me. "Don't stop!" Hal shouted from somewhere ahead. By some miracle, he managed to lead us back toward the truck. I could barely see anything, but suddenly, it was there, the outline of the pickup. We all rushed inside, slamming the doors shut almost at the same time. "Go! Go! Go!" Maya screamed. Hal didn't hesitate. He started the engine and slammed his foot on the gas. The truck sped down the dirt trail, bouncing violently over rocks and dips. None of us dared to look back. For a moment, it felt like we were going to make it, but then the truck came to a sudden stop. "Dead end," Hal muttered. My heart dropped. We were trapped. The woods around us were pitch black, silent, too silent. "Turn the lights off," I said quickly. "It won't be able to see us." But Hal shook his head. "I need them to turn around. I can't see anything." He started maneuvering the truck, shifting between drive and reverse again and again, trying to turn it around in the tight space. Every second felt like an eternity. I sat in the back seat, gripping the door handle, scanning the darkness outside, terrified that I'd see that thing emerge from the trees. Any second, any moment. Finally, Hal managed to turn the truck around. "Hold on," he shouted, and then he floored it. The truck sped down the trail faster than before, the engine roaring as we escaped deeper into the night. None of us spoke. None of us looked back. We didn't stop until we were far, far away from that place. We left everything behind. Tents, bags, supplies, at least $100 worth of gear. But none of it mattered. There was no way we were ever going back. Later, when things calmed down, we talked about what happened. Maya said she heard heavy breathing right outside the tent, and then something started pushing against it, like it was trying to tear its way inside. Hal admitted something too. In all his years of camping, he had never seen or heard anything like that. We tried to make sense of it, tried to come up with explanations, but nothing fit, because whatever that thing was, it wasn't a bear, it wasn't a wolf, and it definitely wasn't human. It was too big, too heavy, and the sounds it made didn't belong to anything on this planet. I guess everyone has at least one moment in their life that they can't explain, something that stays with them forever. For us, this was that moment.